All right, I'm back working on the K200B1, and these are the filter capacitors that kind of, are the gas tank or for power. Basically, they charge up, and then as the amp needs it, they, suck juice out of these capacitors, and it's kind of like a reservoir of voltage. So these are 4,500 microfarad, 50 volt capacitors, and they're only like 3 inches tall by, about 2 inches wide. But they weren't testing very well. Actually, a couple times when I had let them sit for a while, one of these, probably this one, tested as a diode initially on my tester, and then after it had put some electricity in it to test it, and say it was a diode, you test it again and it said, oh, it's a capacitor. But the ratings for the leakage, V loss, was quite high, almost 4%, and I think the ESR was 1.6 or something like that. So that's the resistance, which should be like zero point 0.1 or lower, or zero point 0.1 at the most. So these were not good for another, couple years of service, right? So these had to go. And so I went on eBay where I find my onesie twosie things. I don't have a supply room of 20 of these things sitting around, and I found a 4,500. Found a pair of 4,500 microfarads, but at a much higher voltage. And I thought, well, extra voltage doesn't hurt. It's not like it has to run at that in order to be effective. It's just that it can handle a higher voltage. Um, what I forgot, and this particular ad that I was focused on didn't have a ruler next to them, was that as the capacity for voltage goes up, so does the size. So these are 4,500 microfarad. They will work, but they can handle 450 volts, and I don't need that. And I almost chalked it up to say, you lost some money, put your big pants on. You're an idiot. But I tested them, and when you buy used things on eBay, it's a gamble, right? These test so well. I said let's try to make them work because the ESR was point 0 something and the V loss was point something, and so they were exceptionally good shape. These are used and an old. They might be new old stock, but I think they were advertised as used. Anyway, so let's try to make them work. So what I did is I took a rubberized foam with a adhesive backing, and I put it underneath as a pad, and I imagine that'll dent in a little bit and hold it, from slipping this way. And I made some brackets out of just flat aluminum stock. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the positive and negative from this and the positive negative from this one, and I'm going to put it on a terminal block right here where the old capacitors in their little base ring. I unriveted, sorry, I drilled out the rivets that were holding the little base rings in. I'm going to put a little terminal block here, and I'm going to have the same wiring. I don't want to, change or splice or extend these and try to wire them directly on it like they did before. I'm going to put a terminal block in so that if somebody wants to, they could always revert this back to original condition and, you know, spend big bucks and put in all of the original size capacitors and things like that. You can still get original 50 volt uh, capacitors, but anyway, I think this will work well, and it'll work well for a long time. So that's where I'm at there. I should be working on this stuff later today. The other thing I found is I went through and I just, poked around looking for anything that was burned or loose. A lot of times you look for cold solder joints or joints that have separated. And yes, guess what? The other end of this wire wound resistor, it's a ceramic, sometimes they call them cement resistors. These things last forever, produce a lot of heat. That's why they're actually mounted off of the board. You see there's a couple of them, and they're all stood off of the board. You want to, let the air circulate around them. But anyway, I need a new one of these, and that's in the mail. Should be arriving today, actually. So this back power board's got to come off so I can get at the back side of this and desolder that and put something else in. I'll probably try to test these transistors in these little heat cages, those little heat shield cages, when the board is off. I will test these transistors in this rail. There's 4 transistors in this bottom rail. And one of the things, if anybody attempts repairs themselves, is in this particular board, in this particular circuit layout, there is a thermistor. I was calling it a diode for a while, but it's actually a thermistor, which is a thermal resistor, and the resistance changes based upon the heat that it's seeing. So the hotter it gets, I don't know if it goes up or down, but basically it's a throttle to the power supply board that says, hey, I'm running hot, so throttle back. I don't know how that sounds, but it's a protection device, and it's kind of neat that it is. But you can see there's just 2 tiny little plastic coated wires that go to that thermistor, and it's in a clip in the bottom for the heat transfer, and there's a lot of dirt down there, but I have to make sure I get that loose gingerly, and then do the board repair and the testing, and then put it back together. The other thing I was going to mention is this is a thermal switch, which again senses the heat in this heat rail and will temporarily disconnect. And this is 120 volts. The wires that I'm now going to shrink wrap, because I don't want large areas of 120 volts exposed. But that wire goes basically right to the switch. So when you turn the power on, it goes actually through this switch in order to energize the system. So I'm going to do some precautionary safety things on this, and with the wire block up here for connecting all the wires, I think I should be in pretty good shape. Anyway, I wanted to share with you, careful on size matters. 50 volts capacity, 60 volt voltage capacity, not microfarad capacity. Same microfarad capacity, but 450 volts. Size is going to change. Anyway, wish me luck on the next steps. I will send a video when I kind of get this rewired, and hopefully diagnose the rest of the transistors at the same time. Thank you.